All right, what's going on? Trey here. Want to make sure that I'm live before I get started, but sorry for not going live yesterday. I completely fell asleep. So I'm watching that UCLA game and they're so fucking brutal that they just completely put me to sleep. All right, let me just check. All right, looks like we're live. I'm going to get started here. But yeah, I completely fell asleep. That UCLA team is so fucking bad. And for anybody that watched the end of the Kansas State Arizona game, there were so many bullshit like reviews that took forever for no reason. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, and then by the time I turned the UCLA game for the second half, I just completely fucking fell asleep. So if you're one of these people that's over the cartoon show that is McAfee and the cartoon show that is Portnoy, I figure we'll stream anyway. So, all right, I got some topics today. Again, we'll keep it short and sweet. I'm gonna do the same thing that I did last week. Quick recap on last week, and then a couple things for this upcoming week. And again, the whole point of this: no hindsight bias. No hindsight bias. The reason why we're doing this is because I want the receipts out there. So last week we were pretty on the money. We were about 4 out of 5 for the things I want to talk about. Dante Moore, yep, he looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Same with Oregon. They kicked the snot out of Oklahoma State 69-3, and they pulled the starters at like the start of the third quarter, and it really could have been worse. If they really wanted to, like if they kept the starters in the whole game, it could have been worse than 69-3. So yeah, Oregon has a real chance to win the national title. And I'm not just saying that because they beat Oklahoma State. Like, just watched some of their dudes, like their edge rushers with Uiagalelei. The wide receiver room doesn't look like they miss Evan Stewart because that freshman De'Cory Moore looks great. Malik Benson, former Alabama guy, looks great. Gary Bryant's out there catching touchdowns. They got weapons. Their running back room is disgusting. The fact that Mekhi Hughes is like 5th on their depth chart, that would only happen at a SEC program, which is what Lanning has created. So Oregon, unbelievable. South Florida, we were on the money with that. In the hot takes post, picked them to win the American. And last week told you that they would hang around with Florida. They didn't just hang around with Florida, they fucking won the game outright. So some quick hitters on that. Look, I think if you're really like analyzing this game, you should be more disappointed with Florida than you should be impressed with UCF. I would imagine. So we'll make this a two-parter. I would imagine that now that they're playing Miami, they just don't have the line of scrimmage talent to match up with Miami. Like Markel Bell, Mauioa, the tackles. Like, are you really gonna sneeze on Carson Beck? Tyler Orlando has done a great job, but the line of scrimmage talent that Miami has, just a little bit of a different, So like, Florida doesn't have Ruben Bain. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see on that. But I think if you're really analyzing that South Florida game from last week, you're more disappointed with Florida in the sense that, like, looks like Lagway's hurt. Not sure he's that good. We sure he's a generational 5-star prospect? I don't know. Bullet point number 3 from last week. Sam Levitt stinks. And again, no hindsight bias. The receipts are out there. If you just go and look at my way too early quarterback rankings from last year, Levitt, I think I had him 18, 19, something like that. Never really been a fan of him. The mock drafts that are out there that had him in the first round, like, just go through those lists. Embarrassing. Mississippi State's not even good. Like, they are probably, I'd argue they're maybe the worst team in the SEC. I don't know who you pick as worse than them. So Blake Shapen, like, completely outplayed him. Not a good sign. So if this is what happens, by the way, like, let's just talk about this. So Arizona State plays Texas in the bowl game. He looks like shit, but Scatterbo bails him out. Well, now he plays Mississippi State and he looks like shit again, except worse. So we got to stop with the Sam Levitt conversation. He's just not that good. Again, no hindsight bias. Next one, and this is where Trey was actually wrong. So I'm going to be 4 out of 5 on the things that we talked about last week. Mateer looks good. Mateer looks good. I still worry about one thing, and that is his release point looks like, I don't know. There's something going on with his release point where I'm fearful that in the future, when they play, like, let's say they play some of the top tier defensive lines in the SEC, which it doesn't look like Michigan's quite at that level after losing Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. I worry that when they go up against the top tier SEC defensive lines, that he's going to have a lot of deflected balls. And even in that Michigan game, there were a lot of balls up for grabs that Michigan actually could have came away with interceptions on. So I worry about those things yet. But Mateer looks like the real deal. Definitely can play. There's no question anymore that he can play. And he's an upgrade over what they had last year. So if those two things are true, and it looks like their defense is legit, Oklahoma, not gonna get carried away yet, because this is still Venables, and there's no reason to jump on the bandwagon yet, because their schedule's still fucking brutal. Like, this is a game they had to win. Oklahoma had to win this one, because the rest of their schedule, good luck. But again, they're not just going to be a pushover team anymore. Like, Oklahoma's legit. So out of the 5 things that I want to talk about, 4 of them I definitely nailed last week. Oklahoma, I did not. Hand up, but this is why we're doing it. We want the receipts out there. So Mateer looks legit. And in terms of like NFL draft stuff, definitely on the rise. Definitely on the rise. And last thing, which kind of carries over into this week and where I started the whole conversation with, and that is, holy fuck, UCLA stinks. And so does Flores Lapa. And if you remember, again, you can find this on your own. I want to keep things moving here. I wrote an article before the season, and it basically said something along the lines of, hey, maybe the transfer portal and NIL will serve as a self-awareness filter. That's exactly what's happened with Iamaleava. 100%. I mean, leaving Tennessee was a fucking mistake and a half. He's horrible. just horrible. He's got talent. He's got ability. He's got size. He can move. His pure arm strength isn't bad, but he's a fucking disaster. And now they just got blown out by New Mexico. Shout out Jason Eck, by the way. Another name that I used in the hot takes post. All right, anyway, let's get to the noon window because I want to try to go fast here. And again, I completely fell asleep last night watching that UCLA game. I had my computer in my lap watching the UCLA game and fell asleep. They're that bad. So anyway, noon window, terrible. So anybody that's got like a girlfriend out there and they're like begging them to go apple picking with them, or their girlfriend's like begging them to do something on Saturday, do it during the noon window. Do it during the noon window, because the noon window stinks. So let's just talk about the noon window, because you're not going to miss anything. Wisconsin plays Alabama. Wisconsin's defense might keep them in it temporarily, but they have no chance to win the game. And O'Neal is now their new starting quarterback. Billy Edwards is hurt. So they're running in there with a backup quarterback who used to play for San Diego State against this Alabama defense who returned everybody and is already pissed off because they lost week 1 and then kicked the snot out of Louisiana Monroe. So I would imagine Alabama wins by double digits, and it's really never close. Unless the Wisconsin defense keeps them in it, which is maybe possible, but they still won't win the game. Again, the noon window stinks. Oregon's going to kick the snot out of Northwestern. You're not going to learn anything there. It's going to look the same as the Oklahoma State game, probably. And then the best game on tap is probably that Clemson-Georgia Tech game. But here's the real thing about that game. If Georgia Tech somehow wins that game, or if Georgia Tech somehow keeps that game close, Clemson was never worth taking seriously anyway. And based on that LSU game, they're probably not worth taking seriously, even if they sneak out a win in this game. Because, like, I'm so fucking over the Haynes King thing. I'm so over watching him getting into car crashes because he sucks. Like, that's the Haynes King experience. Hey, I can't do shit throwing the ball, but I'm kind of fast, but not really. So my only ability is run into fucking car crashes and hope it works out for me. He's never going to make it through a healthy season. He's not an NFL quarterback. And if he can actually do damage on this Clemson defensive line that has Peter Woods and DJ Parker, God bless you, man. But again, if you have a girlfriend, wife, whatever, and she's like, hey, I got to get you out of the house. If you don't want to miss your Saturdays, you're like me, I get it. But don't feel bad about caving during this noon window. Just don't feel bad about caving during the noon window. So, yeah. Hold on. All right. Next, what do we want to talk about? So I have the games listed. I don't have like additional notes. Okay, 3:30 game Eastern time. Georgia, Tennessee. Georgia has won 8 straight games against Tennessee, and they've won by an average of more than 20 points per game. Here's the kicker. Tennessee looks good. They actually look better than they did last year, which last year they were a playoff team. But last year they didn't have, like, outside of the 20 fucking catches that Dante Thornton had, they really didn't have a vertical passing game. This year it sure looks like they do. And so, yes, Dylan Sampson leads the SEC in rushing yards. Looks like they got 3 good backs again. Deshaun Bishop actually looks like an NFL back. And they got Star Thomas and Peyton Lewis. Are we sure this Georgia defensive line has a Jordan Davis, has a Jalen Carter? Christian Miller might be good, but I haven't really seen it yet. We'll find out. We'll find out today. But Kirby Smart was actually talking about how he's disappointed that Tennessee has so many guys from the state of Georgia. They've been recruiting well. Their offensive line without Cade Mays is actually a lot better than I thought it would be. Not sure if we got an update on David Sanders, but it would help a lot if he's healthy and on the field. So I think if Tennessee's going to win this one, by the way, they're at home, this is probably their best shot to do so. Here's the bad news. They don't have Jermod McCoy yet, which stinks because this Georgia wide receiver room is significantly better than it was last year. Zachariah Branch alone makes their wide receiver room significantly better than it was last year. We still don't really know what's going on with Gunnar Stockton. Now, he's played well, but he's not as good as Carson Beck. And Carson Beck really is what carried them in this game last year. And now they're on the road. So this is like the first big-time opponent. I mean, if you want to count the bowl game against Notre Dame, I guess, which he didn't look good in. But this is really like the first big-time SEC game for Gunnar Stockton. No guarantee he comes out ready to fucking fire on all cylinders. So I think Tennessee actually has a real shot. Like, in terms of Georgia's defense, KJ Bolden, I'm pretty positive in. Their linebackers, Raylan Wilson, CJ Allen, I'm pretty positive in. I'm not sure they have like this. Dalen Everett can play, but he's going to get a PI. He's going to get a PI. Can their secondary really hold up against what looks like Tennessee didn't have this last year? Is Joey Aguilar great? No. But he's better in terms of down the field passing than Nico is right now. It's not even a debate. I'm not sure Georgia has like the elite cornerback room that they used to always have. So I think this Tennessee-Georgia game is a lot closer than it has in years past. Again, Georgia has won 8 straight. They've won by an average of more than 20 points per game in all 8 of those victories. I think this is going to be a lot closer than those games. And then lastly, like, I don't know where the schedule makers missed up. Again, I'm going to repeat this one more time. If you have like a girlfriend, a wife, and they're begging you to get out of the house, use the noon window, because the 7 o'clock window, you're going to want to sit and watch those fucking games. We got Arkansas, Ole Miss, Florida, LSU. And again, I don't have any notes. I just got the games listed. Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and Vandy, South Carolina. So we'll run through those really quickly. And again, they're all within like the 7 o'clock Eastern time PM window. Arkansas, I think they have a real chance to win. The line in the game is 6.5, which tells you they think Arkansas can win this fucking game. Taylen Green is now a senior. The problem is Austin Simmons. I'm not sure he's going to match what he does. I think Austin Simmons is the better talent, but he's not right now, which is a big problem. And last week against Kentucky, 0 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. If Arkansas creates a bunch of turnovers and they somehow are able to run the ball and keep time of possession, and Taylen Green plays well. And by the way, I don't think like the Arkansas offensive line is bad. They got Carmona, who's a fucking good player. I think Arkansas can hang around in this game, just in the same way that Kentucky did, except I think Arkansas is better than Kentucky. And Kentucky really hung around in that game. So I wouldn't just skip that game. Like, if you're thinking about, hey, like, which game do I want to watch during the 7 o'clock window? Don't just automatically assume that you're going to turn that Ole Miss game off, because I think Arkansas can actually win it outright. What else we got? Florida LSU. Very conflicted on this game, because here's the real kicker with this Florida LSU game. Caleb Banks is playing, which wasn't the case in the first 2 weeks of the year. And that's a huge X factor, because last week, again, if you really watched that Florida UCF, or not UCF, South Florida game, Tyreek Sapp, you just watched him. It was like, that dude's the only guy that's got a prayer at making a play on defense. If Tyreek Sapp doesn't make a negative play, nobody else is going to do it. Well, now they got Caleb Banks, and he's a problem. He's a real NFL defensive tackle, and he didn't play the first 2 weeks. So what happens if LSU can't really run the ball like they like? By the way, Garrett Nussmeier, it seems like they're really conflicted in terms of identity for LSU. They want to have Garrett Nussmeier air it out, but it also looks like they're terrified of him making the 2-3 interceptions that kill him. So Garrett Nussmeier, he's only really averaging like 200 passing yards a game, which really isn't that good. I think Caden Durham can run the ball, but what happens if Caleb Banks wrecks the game, which hasn't been the case the first 2 weeks? All of a sudden, we're in an SEC knife fight. So I would imagine LSU will win the game. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it's close, because Florida's in total wounded animal mode. They just lost to South Florida. If they lose this game, Napier is getting fired, which is almost the exact same thing that happened to him last year, where Florida got off to a terrible start and then they turned it around later. So if they get beat by LSU, the noise is going to pick up big time. Again, we want to get out of here quick because I fell asleep last night watching that dreadful UCLA team. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Again, maybe this won't even matter, but Notre Dame won the game last year. It was close. I think Marcel Reed's ready. He's been good, and they haven't really played anybody. But Casey Concepcion and that Mario Craver look like big-time weapons. Now, Concepcion is obviously the better NFL threat, but if those guys can really beat up on Notre Dame secondary, and Marcel Reed with his legs, he just looks more mature than the last time they played. So, like, if they can put up 20, 25 points, I don't know if CJ Carr can really match it. Because right now, CJ Carr probably will be an upgrade over Riley Leonard. But, like, I don't know that he did anything in that Miami game that makes you go, whoa, that dude's fucking unbelievable. Now, he's going to be better than Riley Leonard, but he's still a redshirt freshman going into SEC defense, going against a Texas A&M team that they have real SEC defensive linemen. So, and by the way, that Notre Dame unit, they had no answer for Ruben Bain. Texas A&M doesn't have Ruben Bain, but they're no slouches either. So I'm actually taking Texas A&M in this game. I think a little bit of a revenge spot, because here's the real kicker. What Texas A&M wants to build is almost like the Notre Dame model. They want to be good at the line of scrimmage. They want to play real defense. They want to run the ball, except they have a mobile quarterback who probably tilts the field in this one. So I actually like Texas A&M in this one. And quickly, lastly, Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Fascinated, which I'm going to be tuning in because Lenore Sellers is my QB1, but I probably won't be tuning into the whole thing just because there's so many other good games on. Here's the real factor to this game. Diego Pavia is going to make his handful of throws where you sit there and you say, what the fuck, dude? If they go in his favor, Vanderbilt will win the game. If they do not, South Carolina will win the game. Because South Carolina should win the game, except the supporting cast around Sellers. And again, we want to put this out there now because I know what's coming. As soon as South Carolina loses a fucking game where Sellers doesn't play well, everyone is going to sit there and say, maybe he's not that good. Well, are you really watching the rest of the team around him? Both of his running backs are 25 years old. They have no chance at an NFL future. And if they had a real back, neither of them would be on the field. They have no real wide receiver outside of Nick Harbor. And Nick Harbor, you hope and pray even catches the ball because against Virginia Tech, he could have caught 2 more balls that really upped his stats. The South Carolina offensive line, it's okay. Vanderbilt has a better offensive line. I can tell you that right now. Vanderbilt's offensive line, way better than South Carolina's offensive line. Not night and day. Vanderbilt has a real offensive line. What Vanderbilt wants to do is play like Navy, where they're going to pick up a 3-yard run, a 3-yard run. Then Pavia is going to do some weird shit, a 3-yard run, a 3-yard run. And all of a sudden you're looking there and sitting, Vanderbilt's had the ball 35, 40 fucking minutes. No wonder why they won the game. So I'm fascinated by this game. South Carolina's secondary with Cease and Kilgore really got to come up big. No big plays. No big plays. No nonsense. So, and Vanderbilt's not a pushover. And Vanderbilt with Alexander, he's capable. He's better than the running back South Carolina has. So we'll leave it short and sweet. Get out of here really quickly. Again, to close here, if you're not playing Vendetta Fantasy Contest, I don't know what you're doing. Why don't we put in a pick here to close? And again, if you have a problem with one of your picks, make sure to email me because in the admin section, I have a manual override button that changes any incorrect picks. So again, we're just putting this out. We're still catching bugs. It's 99% working. But if you notice you have an incorrect pick, email me and I can fix it on the admin tab because I have an override button. So if we just go into our game day, so far we're off to a good start with our picks. We've been taking the over on all of the Tennessee games, They've been cashing. I don't know if we want to do that against Georgia this week, but yeah, our strategy last week didn't really work, but we've been off to a hot start in terms of our picks. So for this week, which game do we want to put in here? I guess I'm not going to be a hypocrite, and we're going to do this plus 200. Not even taking the points. Texas A&M wins outright. That's the pick we're putting in. Nice little payout, huh? That's the pick we're going to put in. Again, if you followed my picks so far, we're off to a hot start, and that's minus the 500. So we are doing pretty well. Again, VendettaFantasyContest.com. Use the promo code MatthewBerrySucks. Again, until we catch all the bugs, it's going to be 100% free. And if you notice one of the picks got scored wrong for some reason, I have an override button. Email us and we'll get it fixed. So VendettaFantasyContest.com. Make sure that you're playing Fantasy League of Gambling. It's going to be the future. So we'll keep it short and sweet for this week. Again, I fell asleep during the UCLA game because that team sucks. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and peace out, Girl Scout.